Hey friends! So if you're watching this right now, you probably already read the first half of my blog, and now you're at the part when you watch my video clip. And so I'm really excited to share this with you. If you aren't sure what I'm talking about, I've been writing about the Bleeding Woman, and I have right here pretty much a narrative that I wrote from the perspective of the Bleeding Woman. And this isn't from the Bible, it's nothing magical, it's just something I wrote trying to put myself in her shoes from her perspective because I find that, I don't know, maybe this just applies to me, but that we forget, or I forget, that these parables are real life and that these are real people. So I wanted to bring this to life and tie it to my entry by reading what I actually read to my Young Lives girls about a week ago. And they asked me to share it again, so this is me sharing it again. So it's a narrative, and I wrote it in two parts. The first part being the woman's perspective before her encounter with Jesus, and the second part, when I'll tell you it comes, is after her encounter with Jesus. And it's coming from kind of like a journal entry type of narrative. So here it goes. Dear Journal, I had a nightmare last night. And although I was completely aware I was having a nightmare, I didn't want to wake up because the reality of waking up was much more of a nightmare than any nightmare I had during sleep. I hated waking up this morning. I felt the same as I always do, alone, dirty, and invisible. You would think after 12 years I would have gotten used to this feeling by now. But no, it still aches to the core of my being. Women complain about having a period for 6 days. Try 12 years and not knowing why. But it's not the physical pain, or the physical bleeding that hurts so much, although it is annoying. It's the label of being unclean that just cuts so deep. It's the fact that I've been abandoned by my ex-boyfriend. I've been abandoned by my family, abandoned by my friends, the people I was so close to, and shunned from all of society. And I'm alone. I'm always, always alone. And why? Because my bleeding makes me unclean, and therefore anything I touch will also become unclean. Merely saying the word unclean causes me to uncontrollably cry right now. Depression and anger are the only emotions I feel. I am out of hope, Journal. I am out of hope. I've tried every doctor and I get the same response. I don't know if I can go another day going through the pain I feel, Journal. I heard about this man named Jesus. They say he performs miracles and healings and whatnot. He usually comes through town, and maybe today I will catch him and ask him to heal me. But then again, I'm an unclean woman. He will never, ever want to get near me. I'm a dirty, unclean, ruined, polluted woman. Why would he want anything to do with me? I guess I'll try though. After all, it's the only hope I have. Now, that was the first part of the journal entry, and now I'm going to share with you the second part. So here it goes. Dear Journal, I have uncontrollable tears flowing from my eyes right now. I've never felt this way ever in my life. I know I left you hanging on the last entry and told you that I was going into town to ask this Jesus guy for healing. Let me fill you in on what happened. So I didn't realize how popular this Jesus man was, because it was a lot harder to get close to him than I thought it would be. Fearing what others would do to me if I got caught trying to talk to Jesus, aka a clean man, I started contemplating and going back and forth in my thoughts whether or not I should just go back home and forget my wishful thinking to be healed. But then I thought to myself, what do I have to lose? Let's say I get caught talking to this clean man and get killed. At this point, going home and continuing life is far worse than getting killed. This is the only hope I have left. So I decided to go in. Everyone was pressing up against Jesus and crowding around him, which made it impossible for me to get near him, or even see him for that matter. So I got on my hands and knees, and I crawled toward the direction he was walking. until I could see barely his sandaled feet and hemmed robe. I crawled even faster, afraid that I would miss my only chance to be near him. I felt bad even asking him for healing, considering he was already on his way to the ruler's house to heal a young girl. But I knew if I could touch his robe, even barely, and receive healing, he would never know, and I would never get killed for touching a clean man. So, I stretched out my hand as far as I could, practically falling, and I touched his cloak. Immediately when I touched his cloak, I felt my bleeding stop. Woe is right. This is not the reason I have tears flowing from my face, for the next part I'm going to share with you is the reason behind my tears. Immediately, when I touched his robe, I turned around and tried to haul 100 miles per hour so I wouldn't get noticed or caught. But Jesus stopped the instant I touched his robe. He turned around and said, "Who was it that touched me?" I froze. My heart stopped. All feeling was lost in my legs. I'm gonna die for touching a clean man, is all I could think. Everyone looked around and denied touching him. I thought his friend Peter got me off the hook when he said, "Master, there's a massive amount of people surrounding you and pressing up against you and touching you." But Jesus said, "I know that, but this was different. Someone touched me, for I felt power go out from me." Terror filled my heart. I knew that I would be killed once he found out it was me. So, I timidly crawled my way back to the crowd. I stood up, legs shaking and everything. I started crying. I told Jesus, "It was me. I have been bleeding for 12 years and..." But then I paused, and I started tripping all over my words because of the way he was looking at me. Oh, I will never forget in my life the way he was looking at me as I was telling my story. His eyes, oh, his eyes. They were so soft and gentle. Don't ask me how, but in some weird way, they reflected love and kindness. Even more love and kindness than my parents showed me during my healthy years. His eyes were so deep that it felt as if he were looking into my soul. The crowds were saying hateful things to me, but it's as if he tuned out the whole world and was paying attention to me and me only. He noticed me. Jesus noticed me. With compassion and love, he noticed me. He then knelt down, put his arm around me, and he lifted up my head because I was too ashamed to look him in the eye. And he said, "Daughter." Gosh, the word daughter, I haven't even been called that in years. He said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." And I did go in peace. And all I could think to myself was, who is this Jesus man? Jesus, Son of God. Who is he?